All right, we're live. Good afternoon, my friends. Hope you all having a fantastic Wednesday afternoon. It is Vance here. Wanted to go through today some of the deck building practices that you can do. Because maybe you've been watching my other videos, maybe you've got some new cards and things like that. Um, and I had a couple of different things I wanted to kind of go over with a lot of you all. For those of you that are new to the game and new to deck building, and I am by no means a professional deck builder, so do not. What's up, man? How you doing? Uh, I am by no means a professional deck builder, so definitely don't. Don't try to take too many of these. Too many of these tips and like go into like a tournament or anything like that because that's probably not gonna be your best bet. I know how to get a basic deck started. I know how to kind of tell you what you're going to need to do, but I'm not the best when it comes to actually coming up with like different combos just yet. Mainly because I don't have a lot of the cards that I need for that just yet. Um, but I will one day, and I know a few that already work pretty well. So let's get right to it. So for those of you that don't know, maybe you got an elite trainer box, or you got a theme deck that wasn't that strong, and you wanted to add a couple things to it. So the first thing that you need to know is you have two different ways to build a deck. All right, and the first way is called standard. So standard is it's typically pretty simple. These are the decks that are going to be around literally any kind of tournament, any kind of event that you do. These are going to be accepted. Okay, and standard is actually, whereas in a lot of your other trading card games, Magic especially, there are constantly card changes happening. You really have to kind of keep up with it. Pokemon makes it very simple. Okay, so Pokemon starts off with the basic thing you need to know is it is the current set and the previous 12. Okay, so you have 13 sets to choose from, and with about 3 or 4 sets a year, you've got roughly you've got roughly 4 years of cards to choose from. So that gives you a lot of options, especially when you consider that each set is typically around somewhere between 70 to 120 cards, somewhere around that, depending on if it's an expansion or if it's an actual full set. Um, and today, I believe, yes, I believe that just about everything I have is actually going to be a standard deck. I think there might be 1 or 2 cards that might be. No, that's standard. That's standard. Yeah. So yeah, every card that I have today, I actually have a standard deck here. And I'm gonna show you kind of what I'm doing with it. So the different tips you need to know about building a standard deck versus building what is called an expanded deck. Now, expanded decks, there's a lot of events and different people. They don't mind expanded. That's fine. But you get some pretty crazy combos. It's not as balanced as it could be, and a lot of people are going to just kind of roll over pretty much anyone that isn't ready for certain different kinds of cards. Um, so that's why a lot of people don't really care for expanded too much. Of course, I'm new enough and I don't really play competitively enough to that I am 100% okay with either. Um, I understand the want for standard and the enjoyment of making a more balanced system and a more balanced game between two players, but I also understand that if you're doing an expanded deck, you have these certain kinds of cards that you want that are classical, or cards that are just really cool, like you really like, and because it does kind of imagine like you're collecting, this entire set, then all of a sudden, like 2 years, they're obsolete. That would kind of suck. I do kind of understand where people are coming from on that and wanting expanded. But fortunately, there are a lot of different. But fortunately, there are some events that do expand, and there are some events that do standard. Um, but Where was I going with that? Sorry. Should have wrote notes. That probably would have been handy. But no, the today's deck, the one that I'm going to show you, kind of explains what you kind of need to do with different decks you're building. So the first thing you need to do whenever you're building a deck is choosing the type of energy, is what type it's going to be. So for me, I chose water and fire. Okay, those are the two different kinds that I chose. Um, Water is actually the primary in mine. um, with fire being kind of the backup, which is kind of weird if you know me because I'm typically more of a fire Pokemon kind of guy. But I have a really good mix of water Pokemon and fire Pokemon to where to where what I'm going to do with this deck is is allow myself to basically keep my water, most of my waters kind of as backups and kind of assisting, with my fires kind of being my front line basically most of the time. Um, so you decide what kind of what type of deck you want to do, and of course now you do kind of have to know certain things about the card game and about the really the basics of Pokemon to understand the basics of how you're going to build a deck. So if you do understand the basics, you understand that you need certain kinds of energy to do certain kinds of attacks. We'll use these two for example. Okay, so you have, let's just do that. Okay, so you have Incineroar here. Okay, and I'm going off my phone because I think it actually has a better camera than my laptop, which yes, it currently does. So yeah, so that's Incineroar. Okay, so that's one of my fire Pokemon that I'm going to be using. As you can see, I'm building my deck. I like to do grass and fighting. Grass and fighting is solid types. Um, so as you can see, you're going to have those two energies, which are fire energies, and then they're colorless as well. All right. So you obviously need to have that kind of energy. All right. But what about mixing different sets? Okay. Because prime example with we'll do Palkia here. Oh goodness, I'm dropping cards. With Palkia here, you have water energy and then colorless energy. So you're going to have the ability to have both water and fire. Excuse me, sorry. To pick up that card. Have water and fire in your same deck if you're building one like mine. And then there are sometimes where you're going to have normal types, which use literally any kind of energy. So you can drop the cards whenever you want to. Lord. Okay, so you can have normal types in any kind of deck because obviously they can use any kind of energy. Okay, so that's why Snorlax is definitely a good one to have. And the other opposite of that spectrum is dragon types. So dragon types are specific, but they all use different kinds of energy, which make them really, really annoying to try and fit inside certain decks. Although they are very powerful most of the time. So I have Shining Rayquaza here, which is a dragon type. You can kind of see the symbol at the top there. And he uses fire and electric and then a colorless for his secondary attack. And then one electric energy for his first attack. All right. So to have a Rayquaza deck, or Rayquaza, one day I'll figure out how to properly say that. Pretty sure it's Rayquaza. But to have that deck, I would have to make a fire electric deck. Because the thing is, you don't want to toss a card in there and just hope that you're going to pick up the energy that they need later. You want to kind of have a general idea of, I know that if I have this card, I'm going to have enough energy to be able to use it. Otherwise, it's what's called a dead card. Okay. Um, Same basic principle whenever you're doing cards that involve evolutions. So we'll use these three for example, as I already showed you earlier. Okay, Incineroar, Litten, and Torracat. Okay, all right. Excuse me, Litten, Torracat, and Incineroar. That's the proper order. All right. So in my deck, I have two Incineroars, which is the third evolution of Litten. Okay, I have two Littens. Okay, which is the first evolution. Now, to get a Litten to an Incineroar, I would obviously need a Torracat, which is the first or stage 1 evolution. Okay, if I have one Torracat, then that means that there is going to be an Incineroar in my deck that is dead. Okay, and what we mean by dead cards is you can't use it obviously, because if you have two Littens out, but if you only have one Torracat, then you're not going to be able to play with both of your Incineroars at the same time. So you'd have to choose. I have two different kinds of Incineroar because I like the two different separate attacks. So you have to kind of choose, well, do I want to do, do I want to do this Incineroar, or if you have two Torracats, you actually have enough for each evolution. Okay? So energy and evolution cards kind of work in the same way, that you have to kind of plan ahead on what you're going to be able to do. All right. So with that, you also have to figure out how much energy you need for each different kind. So for us, for my deck, let's say that I have all my fire cards out at the top of their abilities. Okay, so I have both Incineroars out. That needs bare minimum of two fires each. Okay, so that's four. Shining Ho-Oh is another fire card that I have. I pulled him from that Shining Legends box in case you didn't get a chance to see that. Great card to have, but he needs one fire energy plus three colorless. Okay, and then I have my two Entei GXs here. Okay, a full art and a regular, and his best attack needs two fire energies plus one colorless. So altogether, we need a bare minimum. If we have all these out at the same time, we need 9 fire energies bare minimum. Okay, to be able to play all these, to be able to have enough energy on each card. Now, you don't want to. Typically, you don't want to have too much of Pokemon, too much of energy, or too much of supporter. Yeah, but you also don't want to. Excuse me. Let me rephrase. You don't want to. You don't want to have too much of one thing if it's not going to help you. A lot of people do supporter heavy decks. Some people do support or energy heavy decks. You know, but the worst thing you could possibly do is having too many different kinds of Pokemon in one deck. All right, so because you don't want to have too many different kinds of Pokemon to where certain cards are going to be useless. So think about it from this standpoint. You have on your play mat, you have your active Pokemon. You have 5 bench positions. All right. So if I have Shining Ho-Oh as my active, 2 Incineroars as on my bench, plus 1 Entei on my bench, that's 4 spaces. Okay, so I would still have 2 more to where I could put in Manaphy, who is going to be able to heal any of my water Pokemon, and then have Froakie, which will eventually turn into Frogadier and then become Greninja GX. Hey, what's up, Umbreons? Good to see you, man. I'm just going over the different basics of building the deck and everything. And he'll become Greninja GX. So there's your 6 right there. Now, I'm kind of disobeying my own rule because I do have extras of Entei in here because I have 2 Enteis, and then of course I have extras of Incineroar. All right. And then I also have Shining Volcanion, which is a good water type. Pulled him as well from that pack. And I also have Palkia here. Okay? So now I have more than 6 Pokemon. A lot of times I tell people to try to stick to 6 different types of Pokemon. Okay? And when I say that, I don't mean 6 different energy types, but 6 separate evolution chains, or however you want to word it. Okay? Because the thing is that your opponent's only going to be able to take 6 prize cards. That's basic. That's just the basic. Oh, my apologies. How are you? That's the basic premise of different things like that. Where having too many different kinds of Pokemon, you're not going to have enough energy. You're not going to have enough supporter cards to be able to support whatever kind of Pokemon abilities you're trying to run with, So you can have the most powerful Pokemon, you'd have the most powerful Pokemon out there, but if you don't have enough of energy or enough supporters, then you're not going to be able to actually play them. They're going to be out there, they're going to look really cool, but they're also going to die pretty quickly, okay? So, or be knocked out, whatever term you prefer. All right. So going over that, one more time, we'll just go over the basic Pokemon that I've chosen for this deck. Okay, so we have Shining Volcanion. Okay, take a look at those attacks if you want to. Manaphy. His ability allows him to heal He's basically Lana only without being a supporter. He can constantly do it. Okay, so it's any kind of yes. 20 damage from one of your Pokemon that has any water energy attached to it. Okay, so he's a solid card to have. Phone's about to die, so I gotta go with my stream. Thanks, Ben. Hope to see you around sometime. Then we have two Frokies, okay, which go ahead and show that a little bit closer so you can see the attacks. Okay, Froakie becomes Frogadier, right, which I have two of, and one of those will become Greninja GX. Okay, so that's, and then I also have Palkia. Okay, so those are pretty solid. So so I'm sticking pretty heavy on the basics with that. The only one that I have an actual chain in is the Froakie to Frogadier to Greninja, um, which is a great lineup, a fantastic lineup from Forbidden Light. And that's for the water side. So for the fire side, once again, we have Shining Ho-Oh. Pretty powerful card, especially with that Fire Blast. I have two different versions of Entei GX. Okay, it does a lot of powerful attacks. Okay. Then I have two separate versions of Incineroar. I'll show you that one first. That's the base Sun and Moon one, which is a good one. But I think I actually like the Shining Legends one just a little bit better. Oh, shiny. Yes, exactly. Yeah, man. But I think I actually like the this one a little bit better. The Incineroar from Shining Legends. Because that Profane Punch is if your bench Pokemon have any damage counters on them, this attack does 80 more damage. So basically, he can use. So I'll show you a good combo with him here in just a little bit. But one of the easiest combos right there is right there is just immediately if any of if your active Pokemon gets damaged, retreat them out, put Incineroar in, and then that attack will do 130, which is going to take out pretty much any card in one hit, with the exception of the three GXs that I have in this deck. Okay, and most cards are like that. You know, like I mean, prime example. The Snorlax and the Shining Rayquaza again. You know, only have 120 HP apiece. Now Snorlax would take 30 less, so he would take two hits, but still all the same. And Incineroar is just a very powerful card. Torracat, which I have two of the same, because I didn't get the Shining Legends Torracat yet, but that one does Fury Swipes and Flamethrower. Solid attacks in their own right, especially with the ability to do either 60 damage max or 90 just outright, you know, just there. It's you just 90 damage. Congratulations. And then Litten is, of course, the first evolution of that one with Bite and Flare. So really kind of simple, basic there. And I have two of Littens as well. So so you've chosen your Pokemon, all right, and you know you have enough to you have enough that even after putting 6 prize cards down and drawing 7 cards, you feel pretty confident with the Pokemon that you're going to be getting from your deck. All right. So the next step, in my opinion, some people would tell you to immediately start looking at your energy, but to me, don't look at the energy just yet. Next step is supporter cards. Okay. So let's go ahead and count out what we have here. Pokemon. So 1, 17 Pokemon cards. All right. So each, forgive me, I'm past a very important rule for deck building. Each deck contains 60 cards. If you didn't know that, now you know. Sorry about that. Okay. So 17 to go, or so 17 down. All right. So 43 to go. So for supporters, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 supporter cards. Okay. So now a lot of people would look at that and say that's way too many supporter cards. Not quite. So the only issue that I would possibly run into is not having enough energy. Okay, which That's fair, you know. So I might take a few of these out, but honestly, I would leave most of these in here. Yeah. So we'll take out one of those. I did this one pretty late last night, so you have to forgive me. Um, but yeah, most of these, yeah, we'll take out that one. We'll take out that one. So most people would play certain different kinds of cards, different kinds of decks. When it comes to supporter cards, they play a certain way. Okay, so either they want a disruption deck, which is constantly switching out the other person's Pokemon here and there, you know, constantly using escape rope, constantly using switch, using damage movers or anything like that, you know, or not damage movers, but a part I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's a card that lets you put it's a card that lets you put damage onto another Pokemon, on your opponent's Pokemon. I mean, I know Banette can do that. But so some people play that way. Some people play very energy heavy, where they just want a lot of energy and they want a lot of energy retrievals, you know. And there's nothing wrong with that too. I've seen so many different combos win, you know. But the one that I play, the way that I play, let me kind of get these sorted here. And I'll show you. So the deck that I typically try to run, it seems pretty mixed starting out because it seems like there's a lot of different cards to go through. But it does actually work out pretty well because I've used this kind of deck before, and it worked out pretty well for me then. All right. So first off, I'm very heavy in the idea of being able to actually heal your Pokemon. Okay, a lot of your decks won't be, as I've previously stated one of the uh, in one of the videos that I did where I was talking about theme decks and how some of them annoy me because they don't do they annoy me because they don't have enough potions or enough malasadas or anything like that in there to actually heal your Pokemon. Fortunately for me, I have five different ways to heal my Pokemon. All right. So we have Last Chance Potion. Now this one it's a new card from Celestial Storm, but it's one of my favorites and it's a fantastic one to use for a lot of your GX cards. So it says heal 120 damage from one of your Pokemon that has 30 HP or less remaining. Okay. So the reason that's best in my opinion for GX cards is that it's going to heal 120 immediately, and but you do have to have exactly 30 or less. Okay. So the reason that's difficult, you know, is you can't just have like Mew out there and just immediately heal it, you know, which Mew only has 30 HP anyways. So it has to already have over 30 HP. So that's kind of difficult because because you know a lot of times you know that's a really kind of small area to actually hit to be able to actually use it. But it's still a good card nonetheless. It's one of and I do like it quite a bit. But so another really good kind of Hail Mary card in my opinion is Max Potion. All right, now that one's from a bit of an older set. Actually, that might be the only. Nope, that one's standard legal too. Okay, um, so Max Potion is you heal all damage from one of your Pokemon, but if you do, you discard all the energy from that Pokemon. All right. Another good card for your GX ones, especially if you retreat it and then immediately heal it. Because the thing is, you'll notice I only had three GX cards in my deck. Now there are a lot of people that are GX heavy or EX heavy, or take your pick. But the problem with that is that if they knock out one of your EX or GX, they can take two prize cards instead of one. Okay, so you want to kind of be able to protect them pretty well. Okay, and that's where this comes in. That's where this next part comes in of healing them. So I've got Lana here, which, as we discussed previously, Manaphy kind of does this without using this card. Um, but say it's Greninja GX and it has a bunch of water energy attached to it, whereas Manaphy can heal 20, Lana can then heal him for 50, in the same turn, thus giving him 70 extra HP right there if he's pretty low. So it's a good combo to be able to use. That's why Manaphy's going to stay on my bench most of the time because he's not really that strong of a Pokemon, but his ability helps me out quite a bit. Next up is Big Malasada. That's one of my favorites because it heals 20 damage and also takes off a special condition. So say you're burned or you're poisoned or asleep or something like that, and you're iffy on your rolls or your coin flips or whatever you want to do. Big Malasada is going to help you out quite a bit. It looks so weird. The Malasada looks weird. Malasada doesn't look that weird. It looks like it's like a jelly donut. It. All right. Well, good to have Virginia Megan on here. That's my sister. Anyways, so yeah, Big Malasada. But hey, even if it does look weird, guess what? Heals 20 damage and removes a special condition. Okay, so jelly donut. Yes, exactly, jelly donut. Thank you, Umbreons. The last one is one that I absolutely love, and I want to get a bunch more of these cards. Okay, it's Pokemon Breeder. Draw 2 cards and heal 20 damage from one of your your active Pokemon. And it says if you have no cards in your deck, you can't play this card. Okay, but I love it's reverse Professor Kukui. Okay, so instead of dealing heavy damage, it heals some from your own Pokemon. So I really, really like that card. So that's a really, really solid one to have. It allows you to draw a little bit and heal a little bit. Okay, so that's really a good one to use. Maybe the second or third rounds, or second or third turns. Maybe you're taking a little bit of damage. You want to use that. That one works great. Okay, so next up, we'll go into the different kinds of Pokeballs that I have. The different kinds of Pokeballs that you can use in this game. I chose my 4 favorites. Nest Ball is a great one. That's my first one because you get to search for a basic and then just put it on onto your bench. Okay, then you shuffle your deck. But that means any kind of basic. So if I want to get Shiny Volcanion or I want to get Palkia or even any of my GX cards or the 2 Entei GX cards I have, I can use this card and then immediately search for them. Nest Ball, fantastic. Okay. Then you have Pokeball. Now Pokeball is good because once again, it can be any kind of. The reason I like this one is because it can be any kind of Pokemon. Nest Ball is the only one where it has to be a basic, and Timer Balls are the only ones where it has to be an evolution. But I didn't include Timer Balls because, well, you'll see why from what else I included. So for Pokeball, it's flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. So with that, the only issue with that is that you have to get that coin flip correct. That's kind of fair. Great Ball is the next 2 that I have. All right. Great Ball is look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You can reveal a Pokemon you find there and put it into your hand. Shuffle the other ones back into your deck. The only reason that one's kind of iffy is what if you don't have a Pokemon at the top 7 cards of your deck? It can happen. I've seen it happen before. I've used this card before and then it did nothing for me, which kind of was awful. But anyways, I do like Great Balls though because you also get to look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You can kind of see where some of your cards are at. Of course, you do shuffle them afterwards, but at least you have a better idea of where some of them are. So you might have a better chance. You know that those cards are not in your prize cards is one of the big things. Because some of your best cards being put in your prize cards is one of the most annoying things I have to deal with when it comes to playing Pokemon. The last one is, in my opinion, the best one to use, but of course it can be a little bit difficult because you have to discard 2 cards for it, and that's Ultra Ball. So you discard 2 cards, and then you can search your deck for any Pokemon and put it into your hand. Okay, agree. Yeah, exactly. In my opinion, it is the best one to use. And you kind of have to use a certain kind of combo to make it work, but we're about to go into that. So you have to discard 2 cards from your hand. All right. So then you have to figure out, well, how am I going to get my cards back? Well, that's where this one comes into hand, and that's Fisherman. Okay. So Fisherman is put 4 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. This is the cards like this are the reason that I don't really worry about that I do not worry about having little energy because I can constantly discard them because most of the cards that I have are fire cards, so that involves me discarding certain energies. With Fisherman, I can immediately put 4 basic energies from my discard pile back in, and I have 2 of him in here. And I have one more that I took out that I'm actually, you know what? We're going to have 3 Fishermans in this deck. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take out this one. Um, so yeah, Fisherman is a fantastic one because you're constantly being able to bring those back. So use Ultra Ball to get rid of discard 2 energies. Okay, and the thing is, the Ultra Ball is an item. Okay, you can use as many items in a turn as you want. You can use one supporter. So use one Ultra Ball. You have to discard 2 cards, and or energy retrieval. You can use either of these things to discard your energy with Ultra Ball, look for your Pokemon, and then you can use either of these throughout your hand, and then you can get your energy back. So you can either get 2 energy cards back from there, and you can still have another turn because you can still use another supporter if you want to, because that's still another item. Or you can use one of these and get 4 energy cards back. So say you have extra energy that you want to grab from the discard pile. That's where Fisherman comes in handy. Fisherman's a great card. I love this card. All right. And then next up, I mean, it's hard not to enjoy this card, because it's so simple, so yet also such an easy way to get more cards into your hand to where you can kind of see where you're at, and that's how. So draw 3 cards. That's all it is. Just draw 3 cards. No conditions, no ifs, ands, or buts. Draw 3 cards. Congratulations. The only reason the how is someone that, and notice I only have 2 in my deck. And the only reason that I'm kind of iffy with how is drawing too many cards and then losing is, in my opinion, the worst way to lose in the Pokemon TCG. Is that you have 60 cards that are all fantastic, but you drew too many of them. I hate that. I would rather lose 10 times in a row with them taking all 6 of my prize cards 10 times in a row than having to run out of my cards, because it's annoying to me. It's an annoying way to lose, but it makes sense. I get it, but it's still an annoying way to lose. All right. So kind of got to be wary about how often you use how. That's why I love using how early on in the game, so that way I can kind of draw a lot of cards early and kind of see where I'm at, where my deck is at. All right. Next up, we have Underground Expedition. Okay, Underground Expedition is a good one to use. Look at the bottom 4 cards of your deck and put 2 of them into your hand. Put the other cards back on the bottom of your deck in any order. So the reason I like that one, and the reason I like PokéNav, which is look at the top 3 cards of your deck and you reveal a Pokemon or energy card you find there and put it into your hand. Put the other cards back in any order. So with PokéNav being an item and Underground Expedition being a supporter, you can use both of those in the same turn, and then you can kind of see exactly where 7 of your cards are immediately. Okay, and you can use these after you draw. So you're already drawing 1, and then you know exactly where 7 of your cards are, no matter what. And you would get to choose. The only issue with PokéNav is that it has to be a Pokemon or energy card within those top 3. So if you don't have one of those in your top 3, that part's gonna be kind of rough. Okay, so that part kind of sucks. However, Underground Expedition, it doesn't have any parameters of what kind of card it has to be. It can be any of the cards that you have. Okay, and you get to put any 2 of them that you want into your hand. That's a fantastic thing, and also you don't have to reveal them. Okay, with PokéNav, you do have to reveal what you're taking. With Underground Expedition, it can be you do not have to reveal it. So you can, kind of play it to where you might be losing, and all of a sudden you pull Underground Expedition. They don't know what you're pulling. So for all they know, you pulled 2 GXs, or you pulled 2 basic energies. But maybe you want to pull that trick. That works. More power to you. Okay. So PokéNav, Underground Expedition, two other great ways to get some cards and to kind of see where your deck is at. The next 2 that I have is Tate and Liza. Okay, and I do have 2 of them. Now the reason I like this one is shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 5 cards, or you can switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. So the reason I like doing this is that it lets you do a couple of combos to where one Pokemon will do something and then the next one has to do something else to make it work. All right. So say let's take ghost types for example. All right, or technically psychic in the card game, but you know what I mean. So let's say so haunter. So you have one haunter that uses hypnosis. Okay, he puts the active Pokemon to sleep. All right. Then you can use. Well, no, you couldn't do that at the same time, I guess. But the reason, okay, I mean the other. So you can do different combos like that. You can do combos like that. Forgive me, I don't know all the cards incredibly well, so I can't necessarily work that part out right now. However, being able to switch your active Pokemon out so that they're not taking the front, they're not on the front lines, they're not taking too much more damage or anything, is fantastic. It's a really solid way to play because without taking that much damage, they're not going to die. Obviously, you know they're not the opponent's not going to be able to take a prize card or anything, and you can have them on your bench just kind of hanging out, heal them if you need to, while you put someone else in. You know, like let's say that you have Froakie here, okay, and you're waiting to get that Frogadier. You know, you're waiting to get the Frogadier and Greninja, but then like Froakie takes like 40 damage, so he's down to 10 HP. Well, if you have like Palkia on your bench, or you have Shining Ho-Oh on your bench, you know, wouldn't it obviously be better to take a 130 HP Pokemon and put it in place of your Froakie, which only has 10 HP at that point? Absolutely, it would. And you don't have to take off. So, say you've already put all your energy on Froakie to where you're getting him leveled up before Frogadier and a Greninja come out. This doesn't. You don't have to do a retreat cost. You can retreat him for free with Tate and Liza, and that's one of the reasons I like him, or I like this card. You know, and you also have different cards like Switch is another one, but I kind of like having this. I kind of like doing Tate and Liza. Okay, and then one card that I got from the Shining Legends set, which is going to kind of help me out with Incineroar there. It's move through. It's damage mover, which is move 3 damage. 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to another of your Pokemon. So let's say Incineroar is out there. Okay, he's taking some damage, and then all of a sudden you use damage mover. It's going to someone else, and that means that Incineroar is actually going to get even more powerful with that Profane Punch attack. It's a fantastic card. Such a good card. Okay, so those are my supporters. Okay, or my trainer cards. Okay, so my supporters, my items. All right. So let's count it up one more time. Let's see where we're at all together. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. All right. So I actually made it to where it's 39 altogether. Okay. So I'm actually kind of avoiding my own rule of sticking to 20, 20, and 20 most, or trying to stick to somewhere 20, 20, and 20. Which I guess I am kind of fixing that by using certain supporters. You know, they're constantly going to be allowing me to put more things discarded back into my hand. There are a few cards that let you put supporters that you've already used or item cards that you've already used back into your hand from your discard pile. Those help out a lot because that way you're not drawing too. Whoa, that way you're also not drawing too much from your deck. You're still allowing yourself to use these different supporter cards and these different item cards and everything to where you are able to make a lot of moves happen. Okay, now so we need 21 energies to finish out our deck. Now, so now comes the question of how much of which energy do I use? Okay, so do I go fire heavy? Do I go water heavy? What do we do? I think I will actually end up going fire heavy with this deck. But we're going to find out together here momentarily. Also, does anyone have any questions or anything? Feel free to shout them out in the comments. Like I said, I'm still pretty new at this myself, but I'm happy to answer what I can. If there are any questions or any suggestions, even. So, So let's see. So we need, like I said, we need a nine. We need bare minimum of 9 fire energy for the different fire Pokemons to work. Okay, we need 1 water for Greninja, 1 water for Manaphy, 3 water for Shiny Volcanion. So why do you do 20-20-20 lineup? So the reason I typically try to stick to that, and I also I haven't because I've done 17. Lord math, 17, 22, and 21. Okay. Yes. Okay. That's the lineup that I'm going to be having for this deck. The reason I typically try to stick to that is that I have enough Pokemon to actually play the game, enough energy to actually power them up, and enough supporters to where it's going to be useful to where I can kind of control the board, control what's happening, everything. For me, this deck is not really. It's more of a controller deck than it is an actual disruption deck or anything like that. But that's the reason I typically try to stick to that lineup is because of the fact that you will need certain numbers. That will need certain numbers to make things work. Um, so yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So we need bare minimum of 9. We need bare minimum of 9 fire energy. We need bare minimum of 7 water energy. Okay, so that puts us at 16, with leaving us 5 random energy. I see. Thank you for answering. Absolutely, of course. Um, and that's just the way I play it. Like I said, and I've played some energy heavy decks. I've played some trainer heavy decks. I've played some Pokemon heavy decks, but to me the times when I have done the best is when I had a fairly even amount of each. So that way I was able to have what I needed when I needed to draw it. So that's why it worked for me that way. So let's go ahead and do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 fire energy right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 water energy. And we're going to do 2 more water energies. And we're actually going to do 4 more fire energy. Wait. Math is hard. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 20, 21. Okay. I was only off by 1. So we're going to put that fire energy back. So the reason that I want to have extra fire energy instead of more water energy is because a lot of your fire cards say discard, all your. I agree. I stink at math. It's rough. But a lot of your fire cards will say discard an energy. Okay, so if I have to discard an energy after, okay, so prime example for Incineroar here, Flare Blitz is discard all fire energy from this Pokemon. Okay, so now if he already has 2 water energy, if he already has 1 water energy on there and he has 2 fire, which is the bare minimum for his attack, okay, on there, then it's going to be really kind of annoying to have to figure out, well, all I have is water energy in my hand. But that's why I do fire heavy on the energy, so that way I'm better equipped to power these guys up. Because like I said, these guys are the ones that are going to be doing my primary attacks, my main front line most of the time, with Manaphy doing heals and Greninja being the backup, and then Shiny Volcanion and Palkia kind of just being the really strong basics that I might just need early on in the game, basically. The only thing I'm kind of worried about with Shiny Volcanion is that he needs 3 water energy right from the get-go for his main attack, or 4 of any kind of energy. So he kind of takes a lot to power up. Palkia is pretty solid because Palkia can do Spiral Drain, which is 30 damage plus heals 30. So I wouldn't have to worry about ever healing him, really. Um, so that's another reason that one's good. All right, so let's do this. Okay. So first and foremost, I'm going to recount. Just make sure this is 60. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Was there another question? No? Okay, gotcha. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, 59 and 60. Okay. All right. So we have a 60 card deck. So let's do this. Let's see what it would be like if we were actually to play right now with this deck. Shaking the camera there, my bad. So if we were actually to play with this deck, do one more shuffle. Just kind of let's see what our first hand would be. 46 minutes. I did not expect this to be this long, but there's a lot to go over. There's a lot of different, and I plan on eventually doing more videos where I talk about different kinds of decks, different combos that you can do, the best cards that are out right now, if I have any of them. As of right now, I've got some good ones, some that are really solid, but I don't have like the Rayquaza GX from Celestial Storm. I do have. I think the only two GXs I'm missing from Celestial Storm are Rayquaza and Articuno. I think I have all the others. Which, yes, I thought about putting Blaziken GX in this. Will you do deck profiles in the future? Deck profiles. I don't exactly know what that is. However, if you let me know what that is, I will gladly look into that and possibly do those in the future. Sure, absolutely. I will gladly take requests for things like that, even though I don't really know exactly what that is yet. But yes, I do have Blaziken GX, and I have Torchic and Combusken. I thought about putting them in this deck, but I'm going to use that for a different one, I think, to where it's works a little bit better. It's like a rundown. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate that. All right, so let's go ahead and draw 7. Let's see what that first 7 is. 6, 7. All right. So from the first 7. All right. So the first 7 that we got Water Energy, Energy Retrieval, the Entei GX, Froakie, Manaphy, Lana, and the Fire Energy. All right. That's a fantastic hand to start off with, in my opinion. Because starting there, since I would have to put... let's just look at it from this standpoint. Since, let's say I put Entei GX right out my basic, okay? His first attack is a Fire Energy plus a Colorless Energy, all right, for 50 damage. So I could put both of these energy cards on there eventually. Second round I could. And since he would already have Water Energy attached to him, I can have Manaphy on my bench, healing him if he needs it. Worst case scenario, I can use Lana to heal him for 50. Solid hand right there, right from the get-go. However, let's see what else happens. Because, as we know, after you draw your first 7, then is when you draw your 6 prize cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, let's see what we're losing. All right. So what we're losing in our prize cards is Fisherman, Fire Energy, Water Energy, another Fisherman, Fire Energy, and then the other Entei GX. Now, the only thing that worries me about this, I'm fine with having the other Entei GX being a prize card. I'm fine having that much energy being prize cards. Fisherman worries me, okay? Because Fisherman is typically my main. Him and Energy Retrieval are my two mains for getting energy cards back from your discard pile. Fortunately, I do have one more Fisherman in there, So let's see what the other card would be. So the next card that would draw would be Fire Energy. All right. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire deck and explain and go into counting cards and everything. But although having two fishermen's in my prize cards would be rough because I wouldn't necessarily know what they were, I can still draw them. Obviously. So that's not. I can still do that later. And if I have Pokemap, I think it's Pokemap. I think that lets me look at my prize cards and figure out what they actually are. I only have one of those cards, and it's in one of the theme decks. I plan on kind of just. I think I'm going to dismantle all those and then actually start trying to build decks from all the different cards in there. Um, but overall, I'm happy with the way this deck looks. You were doing a deck profile kind of in this video, but it is going through the entire deck. Oh, okay. So like what each one does. Okay. Yeah, I guess I could do something like that in the future. Yeah, I could definitely do something like that. Um, but no, so for me though, in my personal opinion, that's the way that I would run this deck. Is that's my primary deck right now would be a fire water one right like that. I plan on also doing a dragon metal deck. Dragon fairy metal was what I think I planned. Um, because I had Dialga and I had Ultra Necrozma and I've got some good fairy cards like that. Lola Ninetales is really good with that Spiral Kick and lets you heal after you do damage as well. Um, so I've got some really good cards. I got a lot of good plans for different decks I'm going to do. Um, but the thing is that ultimately, when it comes right down to deck building, 100%. In the games and the anime for Pokemon, you have to build a bond with your Pokemon. The trainer has to build a bond with your Pokemon for them to do well. Okay. With this, you don't know you the way you do it is by understanding what each card can do. Okay. And understanding the different combos that you can have. Because the thing is that if I get the right pulls and I get Damage Mover and then Incineroar at the same time and I get a bunch of fire energies and everything, I can do a lot of damage to where I can basically knock out most of your basic Pokemon from the get go. All right. The only thing that really would have me worried about going against this deck would be um, would be a GX heavy deck. But playing the way that I do and doing a lot of local stuff and not really playing competitively, that doesn't worry me as much. You know. Um, but ultimately, you have to understand your cards. You have to understand how it's going to work. You have 60 opportunities to actually make a decent pull. Okay. And that's where knowing your deck and knowing what cards are in it is a big factor. Because if you go in not really knowing what a deck is, not knowing what's in your deck, and you're doing anything that's that's even mildly competitive, you're going to be in trouble. Okay. Now, that's not to say, and if anyone's watching from the Owensboro area and they want to come to the Phantom Nights this Monday, where I'm running different Pokemon games, teaching people how to play, and running Pokemon trivia, the decks that I have previously built are designed for new players. Okay, so the decks that I have are designed to where you don't have to know, perfect combos. All you have to really know is kind of learn the basics of how to play, and that's what my decks that I'm building for a lot of people um, are for. They're for learning how to play. Um, Ultimately, though, like I said, the number one thing is knowing what your cards can do and knowing the kinds of things that they're capable of with certain other cards. You might have the Hustle Belt is a great Pokemon tool because it allows your cards to do more damage if they are low on health. There's a lot of other Pokemon tools that will allow your cards to do more damage. Um, some cards let your attacks cost less. Some cards take away from your retreat costs. You have to understand what you need your deck to do, what kind of deck you're trying to build, whether it's a controller deck like mine, whether it's a power deck like some other people's, which is also kind of like mine, or whether it's a disruption deck, which is where you're just screwing with the other person to where, you know, no, you can't draw a card this round. Your Pokemon can't retreat. Your Pokemon can't attack. Spiritomb is the worst thing ever. He's so OP. It doesn't make sense. Jacob H, one of the guys watching this, has a Gengar that is just annoying because he can basically take out anyone if they have 30 damage or more, which is stupid. But hey, it works. It's part of it. You know, figuring out how to work against certain different cards and how to battle against those things is what is part of it, and how to adapt to different situations. And that's the ultimate key to deck building, is that you do not really know exactly what's coming. But that's why you try to build the best deck that you can from what you have. Trust your cards and know your cards, and that's really kind of the key to it. So, thank you all so very, very, very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Um, Either on here on YouTube. We also have a Twitch channel as well, where I will be streaming the Pokemon TCG online here in about an hour and a half. Actually, if you're watching this live. I don't have an actual set time for that weekly that I'm going to, but I think I will eventually. And then, of course, we also have our streaming schedule on there as well, where I'm streaming different games. Right now, I'm streaming God of War, if anyone wants to watch. And then on Saturday, I will be streaming with Red Lanyard, who is another co-writer for the Phantom Correspondence. And I'll be streaming, we'll be playing some Overwatch. So you guys are more than welcome to tune in for that. And just keep, watching different videos on here. Check out the site for different articles. And follow me on Instagram and Facebook, to where if you can get more updates about the different things that we're doing, whether it's Pokemon, comic books, movies, video games, a little bit of everything. Okay. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope this has been informative. If you have any questions or anything, please comment below, or like I said, find me on Facebook or on Instagram. Feel free to message me. Be happy to answer, possibly do future videos at your request, such as deck profiles and things like that. So, yeah, thank you all again so much. We'll see you all around.